When you grow old, 3 types of neighbors to avoid, 3 types of relatives to keep your distance from. As we age, our home transforms into a sanctuary where peace and privacy become paramount. For older adults, particularly those aged 55 and above, the relationships we foster with neighbors significantly influence our tranquility. Among the types of neighbors to approach with caution is the intrusive gossip, a neighbor whose curiosity crosses boundaries, disrupting the calm we cherish. The intrusive gossip is characterized by an unrelenting interest in others' lives, often prying into personal matters such as family dynamics, health, finances, or daily habits. Their questions may seem innocent at first, but they frequently delve into areas that feel invasive. What sets this neighbor apart is not just their nosiness, but their tendency to spread information, often exaggerated or distorted throughout the community. This behavior can spark misunderstandings, attract unwanted attention, and even ignite conflicts, undermining the sense of security in your own home. The impact of an intrusive gossip on your privacy and peace is profound. As we grow older, the desire for a safe, serene environment intensifies. Constant prying can make routine activities, like gardening or hosting visitors, feel scrutinized, eroding the comfort of your personal space. Their lingering presence near your property, unannounced visits, or casual remarks about your home's changes can heighten discomfort, making you feel as though your life is under a microscope. Over time, this invasive behavior may lead to stress, diminishing the tranquility you seek in your golden years. To manage an intrusive gossip, adopt a philosophy of distance and boundaries. Politeness paired with assertiveness is key. Limit the personal information you share, sticking to neutral topics like the weather or community events. If they press for details, respond vaguely or redirect the conversation gently. For example, a question about your family could be met with, "Oh, we're just keeping busy," followed by a topic change. If unannounced visits persist, politely excuse yourself, signaling that your privacy is non-negotiable. Setting physical boundaries, such as politely declining to engage in lengthy chats, reinforces your need for space. Consistency in maintaining these boundaries often leads the gossip to shift their focus elsewhere, as they realize your life isn't an open book. Preserving your peace doesn't mean isolating yourself. It's about prioritizing what you share and with whom. By fostering respectful distance, you protect your well-being while remaining neighborly. Your home should remain a haven, unburdened by external scrutiny. As the saying goes, good fences make good neighbors, emphasizing that clear boundaries cultivate harmonious relationships, allowing you to enjoy the serenity of your later years without compromising your personal space. As we grow older, family relationships often take on heightened significance, serving as pillars of support and connection. However, not all familial bonds bring the warmth and mutual respect we seek, especially in our later years when peace and emotional balance become paramount. For older adults, particularly those aged 55 to 80, cultivating a healthy family environment requires discernment in choosing which relationships to nurture and which to approach with caution. One type of relative that may necessitate mindful distance is the self-absorbed relative, an individual whose self-centered behavior can drain emotional energy and disrupt the tranquility we strive for in our golden years. The self-absorbed relative is defined by a lack of empathy and a tendency to view family members as an audience or resource for their own needs and aspirations. These individuals often dominate conversations with their personal interests, challenges, or complaints, showing little regard for the needs or well-being of others. They may reach out when they require support, whether emotional, practical, or otherwise, but rarely reciprocate care or attention. For example, they might expect you to listen endlessly to their problems without pausing to inquire about your life or offer help in return. Their interactions feel one-sided, leaving you feeling more like a sounding board than a valued family member. This behavior can become particularly exhausting for older adults who prioritize balanced, respectful relationships. The impact of a self-absorbed relative on your emotional energy and mental health is significant. Constantly giving without receiving mutual care can deplete your emotional reserves, leading to feelings of frustration or even resentment. Interactions with such relatives often leave you drained rather than uplifted, as their self-centeredness places you in a perpetual role of supporter without acknowledgement of your own needs. For someone seeking calm and fulfillment in their later years, this dynamic can feel invasive, undermining the sense of peace that comes from reciprocal relationships. Over time, the emotional toll of catering to a self-absorbed relative can erode your well-being, making it difficult to maintain the serene lifestyle you deserve. Navigating a relationship with a self-absorbed relative requires a philosophy of self-respect and reciprocity. The first step is recognizing that healthy family connections thrive on mutual care and consideration. Setting boundaries around your availability is crucial. For instance, limit the time you spend listening to their concerns or assisting with their needs, and don't hesitate to express your own limitations. A gentle but firm response, such as, "I'd love to catch up, but I've got a busy day, let's talk about something we both enjoy," can redirect the conversation while signaling your needs. If opportunities arise, consider addressing their behavior directly in a kind yet honest manner, highlighting the importance of mutual support. For example, you might say, "I notice our talks often focus on your challenges, maybe we could also share what's going on with me." This approach may prompt them to reflect on their actions. If the self-absorbed relative remains unwilling to acknowledge or adjust their behavior, creating emotional or physical distance becomes a necessary act of self-care. This doesn't mean severing ties entirely, but rather limiting interactions to protect your well-being. For instance, you might reduce the frequency of calls or visits, focusing instead on relationships that bring joy and balance. Prioritizing your peace allows you to invest energy in connections that are mutually enriching, fostering a family environment that uplifts rather than exhausts. Distancing yourself from a self-absorbed relative is not a rejection of family, but a deliberate choice to honor your emotional health. Ultimately, embracing boundaries with a self-absorbed relative empowers you to maintain control over your emotional space. Your later years should be filled with relationships that contribute to your happiness and serenity, not detract from it. By setting limits and advocating for reciprocity, you create room for meaningful connections that respect your needs and values. Your well-being is invaluable, and cultivating a family dynamic that reflects mutual care ensures that your golden years are marked by fulfillment and peace, surrounded by those who truly honor your presence. As we age, a home becomes more than a mere residence. It transforms into a sanctuary where peace, security, and tranquility are paramount. For older adults, particularly those aged 55 and above, the relationships we maintain with neighbours significantly influence the serene environment we strive to cultivate. However, not all neighbours contribute to this harmony. Among those to approach with caution is the disruptive neighbour, whose habits or lifestyle can inadvertently or deliberately disturb the peace of the neighbourhood, impacting your well-being. Recognizing and managing such relationships is essential to preserving the calm and comfort of your golden years. The disruptive neighbour is characterized by behaviors that interfere with the neighborhood's tranquility. They may host frequent late-night gatherings, play loud music, or neglect their property, allowing it to fall into disrepair and affect the community's shared aesthetics. Some may disregard communal spaces, leaving trash, blocking driveways, or engaging in activities that raise safety concerns. These actions, whether intentional or not, disrupt the harmony of the neighborhood, affecting not only you, but also other residents. For older adults who value a quiet and orderly environment, such disturbances can feel particularly intrusive, undermining the sense of security and ease within one's own home. The impact of a disruptive neighbor on your tranquility and health is profound. Noise and disorder can take a significant toll on mental and physical well-being, disrupting sleep, increasing stress, and eroding the sense of safety in your sanctuary. Imagine trying to enjoy a quiet evening reading, only to be interrupted by blaring music, or returning home to find communal areas cluttered with debris. Over time, these disruptions can lead to anxiety, frustration, or resentment, detracting from the comfort and joy of daily life. For older adults, who often prioritize a serene lifestyle, the stress caused by a disruptive neighbor can be particularly taxing, making it challenging to maintain the peaceful environment they've worked hard to create. Navigating a relationship with a disruptive neighbor requires a philosophy of diplomacy and control. The first step is addressing the issue calmly and non-confrontationally to avoid escalating tensions. Initiate a polite conversation, focusing on how their behavior affects the shared environment rather than criticizing them personally. For example, you might say, "I've noticed the music at night makes it hard for me to sleep. Could we find a way to keep things quieter?" This approach often reveals that neighbors are unaware of their impact and may be willing to adjust. If the issue persists, consider involving a neighborhood association or property manager to mediate constructively, ensuring the matter is addressed without personal conflict. When direct communication fails to yield improvement, take proactive steps to protect your own peace. Simple modifications, such as soundproofing windows, creating a relaxing indoor retreat, or using noise-cancelling devices, can minimize the impact of external disturbances. Planning quiet outings during known disruptive times can also help maintain your tranquility. These adjustments empower you to control your environment, ensuring your home remains a haven regardless of external influences. While you cannot control a neighbor's actions, you can manage how you respond, preserving your well-being through intentional choices. Embracing a philosophy of boundaries and balance is key to managing a disruptive neighbor. Maintaining a respectful distance can prevent ongoing stress while still allowing for cordial interactions. You don't need to form close bonds with every neighbor. Sometimes, polite greetings and limited engagement are sufficient to foster a harmonious environment. By recognizing the disruptive neighbor's impact and taking steps to mitigate it, you safeguard your independence and peace. Your home is your sanctuary, and every effort to maintain its serenity is worthwhile. As the adage goes, good fences make good neighbors, reminding us that clear boundaries foster respectful relationships, enabling you to enjoy the tranquility of your later years unclouded by unnecessary disruptions. As we age, family relationships often become a cornerstone of emotional and social support, particularly for older adults aged 55 to 80 who value peace and stability in their golden years. However, not all family ties foster the warmth and mutual respect we seek. Among the relatives who may disrupt this harmony is the borrower who doesn't repay, a family member who takes advantage of familial trust by borrowing money without genuine intent to repay or showing gratitude. For older adults, especially those on fixed incomes, maintaining healthy boundaries with such relatives is crucial to preserving financial security and emotional well-being. The borrower who doesn't repay often relies on the deep bonds of family to justify their requests for financial help. They may borrow money for various reasons: emergencies, personal ventures, or lifestyle expenses, but fail to follow through on promises to repay. These relatives might exploit the reluctance of family members to demand repayment, using emotional ties as leverage or offering excuses to delay or avoid settling debts. This behavior can create tension, particularly for older adults who are mindful of their financial stability after years of careful planning. The expectation of leniency within the family dynamic makes it challenging to address the issue without risking conflict. The impact of this type of relative on your trust and financial security is significant. Money is a sensitive topic in any relationship, and unpaid debts can strain even the strongest familial bonds. The sense of betrayal or manipulation that arises when loans go unreturned erodes trust, leaving you questioning the sincerity of the relationship. For those in retirement, every financial decision carries weight, as savings or fixed incomes are often carefully budgeted. Unpaid debts can disrupt this balance, threatening financial peace of mind and causing stress that detracts from the tranquility of later years. The psychological toll is equally heavy, as repeated excuses or dismissals of debt can make you feel undervalued or taken for granted. Managing a relationship with a borrower who doesn't repay requires a philosophy of financial boundaries and caution. Setting clear limits is essential, even if it feels uncomfortable initially. Before lending money, evaluate the relative's past behavior. Have they repaid others or shown responsibility? If you choose to lend, treat it as a formal arrangement with explicit terms, such as repayment deadlines or written agreements, to clarify expectations. Alternatively, consider non-financial ways to support them, such as helping them access community resources, budgeting advice, or job opportunities. These approaches demonstrate care without jeoparding your financial stability. If lending feels risky, politely decline with the response like, "I'm not in a position to lend right now, but I can help you find other solutions." This preserves the relationship while protecting your resources. If the relative continues to disregard repayment, creating distance becomes a necessary act of self-respect. Limiting financial interactions doesn't mean rejecting the family bond, but prioritizing your well-being. Communicate your boundaries clearly, explaining that your support has limits to maintain fairness and mutual respect. For example, you might say, "I value our relationship, but I need to be cautious with my finances." Over time, this clarity may encourage the relative to seek other means of support or reflect on their behavior. Protecting your financial security ensures you can enjoy your later years without the burden of unresolved debts. Ultimately, establishing boundaries with a borrower who doesn't repay safeguards both your finances and emotional health. Your golden years should be a time of peace, surrounded by relationships that uplift rather than drain. By setting limits and offering alternative support, you foster a family dynamic that respects your needs while encouraging responsibility in others. Choosing not to lend doesn't diminish your care. It reflects a commitment to maintaining balanced, respectful relationships. Your well-being is paramount, and cultivating a family environment that honors financial boundaries allows you to live with serenity, free from the stress of unreciprocated generosity. As we advance into our later years, particularly between the ages of 55 and 80, family relationships often become vital sources of emotional connection and support. However, not every familial bond nurtures the peace and mutual respect we seek during this stage of life. For older adults prioritizing tranquility, the self-absorbed relative or family member who views others primarily as a means to fulfill their own needs can pose a significant challenge. Managing such relationships with clear boundaries is essential to preserving emotional well-being and fostering a balanced family dynamic that enhances, rather than depletes, your serenity. The self-absorbed relative is marked by a striking lack of empathy, often treating family members as an audience for their personal dramas or a resource for their needs. Their conversations revolve around their own interests, challenges, or achievements, with little regard for others' lives or feelings. They may reach out when seeking emotional support, advice, or practical help, but rarely reciprocate by offering care or attention in return. For instance, they might monopolize discussions with their problems, expecting you to listen endlessly without asking about your own experiences or needs. This one-sided dynamic can feel suffocating, particularly for older adults who value reciprocal, respectful relationships that contribute to a peaceful lifestyle. The emotional and mental toll of engaging with a self-absorbed relative is considerable. Constantly catering to their needs without receiving mutual care drains your emotional energy, leaving you feeling depleted rather than uplifted. Interactions often feel like a performance where your role is to support without acknowledgement of your own desires or challenges. This imbalance can lead to frustration, resentment, or even exhaustion, undermining the calm and fulfillment you seek in your golden years. For those striving to maintain a serene environment, the self-absorbed relative's behavior can feel invasive, placing you in a perpetual position of giving without receiving, which disrupts emotional balance. To navigate this relationship, embrace a philosophy of self-respect and reciprocity. Healthy family connections thrive on mutual care, and setting boundaries is crucial to achieving this balance. Begin by limiting the time and energy you dedicate to their demands. For example, if they dominate conversations, gently steer the discussion towards shared topics or excuse yourself politely, saying, "I've got to take care of some things, but let's catch up again soon." This signals your need for balance without confrontation. If appropriate, address their behavior directly, but kindly, such as, "I've noticed we mostly talk about your challenges. Maybe we could share what's going on with both of us." This approach may encourage self-reflection and highlight the importance of mutual support. If the self-absorbed relative remains unresponsive to your efforts, creating emotional or physical distance becomes a necessary act of self-care. Reducing the frequency of interactions, such as limiting calls or visits, allows you to focus on relationships that are mutually enriching. This doesn't mean cutting ties entirely, but rather prioritizing your emotional health by engaging only when the interaction feels balanced. For instance, you might choose to connect during family gatherings rather than one-on-one settings where their self-centeredness is more pronounced. Distancing yourself is not a rejection of family, but a deliberate choice to invest in connections that bring joy and respect, ensuring your peace of mind remains intact. Ultimately, managing a self-absorbed relative empowers you to maintain control over your emotional space. Your later years should be filled with relationships that uplift and honor your needs, not drain your energy. By setting clear boundaries and advocating for reciprocity, you cultivate a family environment that fosters positivity and mutual support. Prioritizing your well-being allows you to focus on connections that enhance your life, creating a sense of fulfillment and tranquility. Your emotional health is invaluable, and by choosing relationships that reflect mutual care, you ensure your golden years are marked by serenity and meaningful bonds that enrich your life's joy. As we enter our later years, particularly between the ages of 55 and 80, family relationships often become a vital source of connection and support. However, not all familial ties contribute to the peace and balance we seek in our golden years. For older adults prioritizing a serene lifestyle, the lazy dependent relative or family member who relies indefinitely on others without striving for self-sufficiency can disrupt financial and emotional stability. Establishing boundaries with such relatives is essential to preserving your resources and well-being, ensuring your retirement years remain fulfilling and tranquil. The lazy dependent relative is characterized by a lack of motivation to improve their circumstances, whether in finding employment, managing finances, or handling personal responsibilities. They lean heavily on family members, often those who are more stable, for financial assistance, housing, or other support, sometimes viewing familial generosity as an entitlement. While their needs may initially seem genuine, their reliance can become habitual, burdening compassionate family members. For example, they might repeatedly ask for money to cover expenses or expect to live in your home without contributing, showing little effort to stand on their own. This dependency can strain even the strongest family bonds, particularly for older adults who value independence and mutual respect. The impact of a lazy dependent relative on your resources and peace of mind is significant. Continuous support, whether financial, such as covering bills, or practical, like providing a place to stay, can deplete your savings and emotional energy. For those in retirement, who often live on fixed incomes or carefully planned budgets, this burden can disrupt financial security, threatening the calm lifestyle you've worked to achieve. Over time, the lack of effort from the dependent relative can lead to resentment, especially if they settle comfortably into the support provided without pursuing change. The emotional toll of feeling taken advantage of can erode the joy of family connections, replacing it with stress and frustration. Managing this relationship requires a philosophy of empowerment and healthy boundaries. While it may feel compassionate to offer ongoing support, enabling dependency can hinder the relative's potential for growth and strain your resources. Begin by setting clear limits on the support you provide. For instance, if you offer financial help, specify that it's temporary and tied to expectations, such as, "I can help with this bill once, but I'd like to see you work toward a plan for stability." Encourage self-reliance by guiding them toward resources like job programs, financial counseling, or community services, which can foster independence without relying solely on you. A response like, "I want to support you, but I think finding a job or budgeting help could set you up for success," shows care while emphasizing responsibility. If the relative persists in their dependency, creating distance becomes a necessary act of self-preservation. Politely but firmly communicate that your support has limits, perhaps saying, "I need to focus on my own plans now, so I can't continue this level of help." This approach protects your resources while encouraging them to take proactive steps. Reducing involvement, such as limiting financial contributions or setting boundaries around living arrangements, doesn't mean abandoning family, but prioritizing your well-being. Over time, these boundaries may motivate the relative to pursue self-sufficiency, benefiting both them and the family dynamic. Ultimately, establishing boundaries with a lazy dependent relative safeguards your financial and emotional health, allowing you to enjoy your later years without undue stress. Your retirement should be a time of peace, surrounded by relationships that uplift rather than drain. By offering guidance toward independence and setting clear limits, you foster a family environment that respects your needs while empowering others. Your well-being is paramount, and cultivating relationships that honor mutual effort ensures your golden years are marked by tranquility and fulfillment. Choosing to prioritize your peace over enabling dependency reflects a commitment to balanced, supportive family ties that enhance your life's joy. As we age, particularly in our golden years from 55 to 80, prioritizing mental and emotional well-being becomes essential for a fulfilling life. Our homes and communities serve as sanctuaries where peace and tranquility are paramount, yet relationships with neighbors and family can either enhance or disrupt this harmony. For older adults, navigating challenging interactions requires a blend of awareness, patience, and purposeful boundary setting. By adopting strategic approaches, we can protect our peace, foster balanced connections, and ensure our environment remains a haven of comfort and serenity. Here are key strategies to gracefully manage relationships with intrusive, self-serving, or disruptive neighbors and relatives, empowering you to cultivate a life of joy and fulfillment. Set clear boundaries early. Establishing boundaries from the outset is critical to maintaining healthy relationships. With neighbors who show signs of being overly curious, such as intrusive gossips, avoid sharing personal details and keep conversations light, focusing on neutral topics like community events or the weather. A polite deflection, such as, "I prefer to keep that private," signals your need for privacy without causing offense. For relatives who demand too much, like borrowers who don't repay or self-absorbed individuals, clearly communicate limits on your time, finances, or emotional energy. Early boundaries set the tone for respectful interactions, ensuring your well-being is prioritized without alienating others. Practice selective engagement. Not every request or interaction deserves your immediate attention, especially from self-serving neighbors or dependent relatives who seek personal gain. Selective engagement involves saying yes only when it aligns with your capacity and values. For neighbors who frequently ask for favors, such as watching their property, politely decline when requests become excessive, using phrases like, "I'm not able to help right now." With family members who lean on you without reciprocation, limit your availability to prevent feeling overwhelmed. This approach preserves your energy for relationships that are mutually supportive, fostering a sense of balance and fairness. Address disruptive behavior diplomatically. When dealing with disruptive neighbors, such as those causing noise or cluttering communal spaces, a calm and non-confrontational approach is most effective. Initiate a friendly conversation, focusing on the shared environment's well-being rather than personal criticism. For example, say, "The late-night music makes it hard for me to rest. Could we find a quieter time?" If issues persist, involve community resources like a neighborhood association to mediate constructively. For relatives whose behavior, such as dependency or self-centeredness, disrupts your peace, address concerns kindly but firmly, encouraging mutual respect. Diplomacy maintains harmony while advocating for your needs. Create personal sanctuary spaces when external disturbances from neighbors or relatives cannot be fully resolved. Creating a personal sanctuary within your home is invaluable. Soundproofing windows, designating a quiet area for relaxation, or using noise-cancelling devices can shield you from disruptions like loud music or intrusive inquiries. For family dynamics, carve out emotional space by limiting interactions with draining relatives, focusing instead on uplifting connections. These adjustments empower you to control your environment, ensuring your home remains a place of comfort and tranquility, regardless of external influences. Embrace the power of respectful distance. Sometimes, the healthiest approach is maintaining a respectful distance from challenging individuals. With neighbors, cordial greetings and minimal engagement can foster harmony without requiring close bonds. For relatives who consistently overstep boundaries, reducing contact such as fewer calls or visits protects your peace while preserving family ties. Distance is not about severing relationships, but about prioritizing your well-being. As the adage, "Good fences make good neighbors," suggests, clear boundaries create respectful, balanced connections that enhance your life serenity. In closing, living harmoniously with neighbors and family is an art that requires intentional choices, especially in later years when peace takes center stage. By setting boundaries, engaging selectively, addressing issues diplomatically, creating sanctuary spaces, and embracing distance, you shape relationships that honor your needs. Your commitment to self-care ensures your environment remains a haven, allowing you to surround yourself with those who respect your boundaries and contribute to a supportive community. Each interaction is an opportunity to reinforce your values, prioritizing comfort and joy in a life well lived. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment, Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.